Hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Um, okay, welcome to this live session. Welcome to this live session. My name is Franklin, and today the purpose of this live is for us to kind of like get a kind of a deep dive into when you hear the word DevOps, what does it really mean? We're getting a deep dive into what is DevOps or what is DevOps engineering. You have heard the term DevOps engineering. And who is this video for, by the way? Whether you are kind of just starting or you have been thinking about joining a DevOps bootcamp or you've been thinking about learning about DevOps, you're thinking about switching from a different career into DevOps, or you're already in tech and you want to grow into a DevOps role. So this live session, it will kind of give you a roadmap, clarity on the different skills and the path that you need to take before, and then where you need to be before you start sending out your job applications for interview in order to be well positioned. Now, the next thing we want us to first of all talk about is what is DevOps? What is DevOps? When you hear the term, what is DevOps? Many people, when they hear the term DevOps, what comes to their mind is a set of tools they have to learn and all of those things. But what I want you to know is that DevOps is not just about tools, it's about culture, it's about collaboration, and it's about automation. Again, it's about bridging the gap between developers and the operation team in a in a in a in an establishment. It could be in a tech company, could be in any company. So where you have the operation team and you have the IT team, or the developers rather. To be specific, you have developers to bridge that gap. That's why the role DevOps was coined out. So the purpose of this bridging the gap is to be able to deliver software faster, more reliably, and securely. So these are key components that the DevOps role or comes into to bridge, or comes to solve, or brings to the table. Okay, it brings to the table speed of delivery of software. Again, it brings to the table reliability, and it brings to the table security at the end of the day. So now, what I would just want to give some skill checklists. What are some of the skill checklists that you should kind of like get on your tool belts before you start sending out the applications out there? So before you start applying for DevOps jobs or DevOps role or related role, remember when you do DevOps, there are different roles you can actually apply for, like infrastructure engineer, build and release engineer, AWS engineer, and many more. All right. So, but before you start applying for DevOps or related roles, here are some of the checklists that I've just compiled that you need to kind of get in your tool belt before you can start really applying. So number one is fundamentals. The first part is getting the fundamentals. Fundamental has to do with getting some Linux skills, learning Linux, being able to write Linux command, identify Linux, work with the Linux command line, do basic operations on the Linux terminal. And then another one will be the Git is a source code management software. It's used for collaboration in a IT development environment. And then learning scripting. Scripting could involve scripting would involve Python. Python scripting will involve shell scripting or bash scripting. So then you have CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous delivery or deployment. So tools like Jenkins, GitHub, or GitHub Action, and other tools. I mean, Jenkins is one of the most popular one. Just focus on one. Don't try to learn everything. Again, because you don't want to be too congested. Then you have to learn containers or container containerization, rather, let me put it that way. You have to also learn containerization. That involves learning Docker, being able to deploy application with Docker, being able to run simple Docker codes, build Docker images, debug in a Docker, debug Docker application or containerized application with Docker, and so on. Now we also have Kubernetes, being able to orchestrate, or let's say, orchestrate containerized application. Could be containerized application, in most cases, microservice-based applications. Being able to do that. The next thing you will need to do is understand at least one cloud platform, at least one cloud platform. Get the basics, get the understanding, and the most popular is AWS. We also have Azure and GCP. Now we have Oracle as well. We have Oracle Cloud and many others. But learn one particular cloud platform and be able to create things like VPC, create things like storage, S3 buckets, and all of those things. I mean, creating databases, creating EC2 instances. You should be able to do all of those things, all right? Now, after the cloud platform, infrastructure as code. Understand what is infrastructure as code and the importance of infrastructure as code, right? The benefits of infrastructure as code. Learn tools like Terraform, which are cloud agnostic. Different cloud platforms have their own cloud-based infrastructure as code tools, but just go with the general. Like I would recommend Terraform and Ansible. Terraform will be used for provisioning resources on different cloud platform, irrespective of the your cloud platform of choice. And Ansible as well will be used for configuring your different resources as well, be it on the cloud or on-prem, wherever you do it. So at the end of this video, I'm going to show you my home lab, how all of this is implemented in my home lab. Now, next thing we'll talk about is, after talking about Jenkins, we'll talk about monitoring. When it comes to monitoring, we have Prometheus, Grafana, Datadog. You have to understand first of all what is monitoring. What are you monitoring? What are metrics? What are traces? These terminologies about monitoring, and what are traces? What are metrics? What is the meaning of metrics? And what are common metrics that you measure in you collect in a environment? What are logs? Understand this terminology when it comes to monitoring and logging tools. Now, when it comes to the tools, you learn tools like Datadog, Prometheus, and Grafana, LStack, and there are a lot of them out there. But choose to focus on Prometheus and Grafana, LStack. Okay. Now, when it comes to security, another thing you need to hold, which I would say the last for now, security basics. Understand security basics, how to secure your environment, what are some of the best practices, and what are some of the security best practices when you're working in a production environment. What are some of the best security practices when you're implementing your different infrastructure, when you're implementing your CI/CD pipeline, and so on. When you're working, you talk about things like list privilege, all right, list access privilege, and a lot of those security principles. Understand security best practices for your pipeline and every other aspect, things that we're going to discuss though. Now, the next thing I want to kind of look about is what are some of the common mistakes that you should kind of avoid. Common mistakes that people do and mistakes you avoid. So one big mistake beginners make is chasing every tool they hear about. You don't need to chase every tool you hear about out there. So what you should just do focus on the principle first. When you're understand the principle, focus on the principle. Remember when I was talking about this, I was talking about best practices. For example, when you talk about what are some of the best practices for your CI/CD pipeline, for all of those things that we are going to look at subsequently. But you understand best practices, understand the principle first, the basic principles. And then another thing too is applying without, let's say applying for jobs without real world hands-on project. Don't do that. You start going for interviews, or maybe you start getting called for interviews when you have not had any real world hands-on project. I know if you're just starting, the only way you can get experience is by getting a job, or maybe one of the ways you expected to get real world experience is by getting a job. And again, most jobs will need you to have experience. How do you get experience? In order to get experience, right? So it becomes like, okay, it becomes like the concept of the hen and the egg. Which one comes first? Is it the hen that comes before the egg, or is the egg that comes before the hen? So, but you can bridge that scenario by putting yourself out there, doing personal projects, working on personal project. All right. So because employers want to see what you have built, not just what you have studied or what you know. They want to see what you have built. Okay. It's more about what you can, what you have done, or you can do and have done, than just knowledge that you have learned without practice. So that is very, very key point. No, but what are some of the practical, what I would say, what is the next practical step you should take? So building projects, setting up a CI/CD pipeline, deploying an application with Docker and into a Kubernetes cluster, or deploying a Kubernetes cluster, automating, doing open automation with Terraform, sharing. And then after you've done all of this, I mean, again, I just go over it again. You get building projects, which will setting up CI/CD pipeline. You should, by setting up a CI/CD pipeline, you will understand these tools, that the first part of the tools that I talked about. When you have done CI/CD pipeline, you do deployment of application. It could be a monolithic application with Docker, of course, right? It could be a sample application. You can get sample application everywhere on GitHub and so on. They are keeping, and then now deploying your own Kubernetes cluster. Yeah, I have my home lab, and in my community, my free community that I'm going to introduce to you guys, you can actually create your own home lab, and you don't need to care about the cost that you incur when working with AWS and all of those platforms. So, which of course you still need experience on them, but most of the time you create resources and need for learning purpose, and you delete them. So, but for more persistent environment, you will need your own setup. You will need your own setup. So the next thing I'm talking about here is so you build those projects, and then you share those projects on GitHub, on your GitHub profile, on your LinkedIn. Post about your learning journey on LinkedIn as well. Practical, I mean, post even videos explaining your work, your project, and so on. Yeah. So do that, and when you have done all of that, and then you can now start posting, you can now start applying for jobs and so on. And of course, when we talk about optimizing your LinkedIn and so on, but the first thing is getting those principles and the skills tied down. Okay. So now, the one thing I want to say is that, again, when I talk about these projects and CI/CD pipelines and all of this, sharing your projects on GitHub and so on, you might be overwhelmed and say, where do I start? How do I go about this and so on? And that is exactly why I created a community called CloudMasters Hub. It's a free community for creating for career switchers, people who are just getting into IT or into DevOps, cloud engineering, AWS engineering, or beginners, people who have learned a thing or two but are still kind of like missing some pieces. You don't know how to connect the dots. And this and even professionals, I mean, if you've been working, for example, this is a challenge that professionals also get in the job, especially if you're not really a passionate person in what you do. You are employed in a company to work, and you're working as an observability engineer, for example. And let's say you've been working as an observability engineer for 3 years, and okay, your contract is finished and you want to move on. You want to get back to maybe to the job market. Now, all the other things, Kubernetes, you don't know how to use, maybe do container orchestration with Kubernetes or Docker, or maybe most of the other skills You remember, you see that your job kind of like isolated you to one particular skill set, but your next job might not need those particular just that particular skill set. It might need beyond that. Even though most jobs will give you training before, again, uh, when this community, our community, is here to help us to keep you as a professional to stay sharp. So if you want to stay sharp in almost everything and get also we learn new skills like some of adopting some of AI deployment. We call like new fields are coming up like MLM, MLOps, sorry, MLOps and LLOps and so on. There are so also concepts that are coming for being able to support AI models or AI deployment models and so on, which are a little bit different from what you would do in a traditional or in a regular DevOps role. So we provide training, tailored training projects, and more. This training are more of practical hands-on projects and encouragement to help you stay motivated. That is one very important thing. I mean, you've done training and you've done a lot of people send applications out there. At the end of the day, you're not getting any feedback from recruiters and so on. So it becomes difficult for you to stay motivated. So uh, we help you stay motivated. We are a tribe, we are a team. So to help you keep your skills up to date as well by learning new things and emerging skills that are required, or where, for example, every field in IT is evolving. Being able to keep yourself up to date with the evolution in the DevOps and other DevOps surroundings as well. So if you're really serious about starting and or growing, starting a journey, this journey to become a DevOps engineer, or you want to grow in the field, right? You want to grow in the field of DevOps. I will invite you to join us at CloudMasters Hub. Let's learn, build, and grow together. So that said, I want to thank you for joining this live today. It was not meant to be a very long session. I mean, just drop your chats in the link in the chat session of this video. If you want to know more about our CloudMasters Hub community, look in the description of this live session or this video. If you're watching the video, you will see the link that you can use to join the community. All right. See you. Thank you very much.